Hey, welcome back, everyone. I want to do a quick margin update. If you remember, I went on margin late February. Stock market absolutely crashed, but we were in the trade, and we did some things since then. If you remember, we bought QDTE, and we were on margin. And then I decided to shift out of that. The reason I did is because I realized even though the stock market was going to go higher and QDTE would recover, I could take up to an $18,000 taxed harvest hit because I went from QDTE, which uses the NASDAQ to derive its dividend. I moved that into IWMY, which uses the Russell 2000 to derive its dividend, and they're two separate companies. So I wasn't going to have a wash sale. So this is very important. Stock market literally falls after I get involved. And then we're kind of changing up the position so we can benefit that tax harvesting, which is going to allow us to write off one for one. In the U.S., we can write off one for one, $1 profit, $1 loss by December 31st. So we took that and we then decided to use the same amount of money and then buy IWMY. Now, since then, we've been doing a couple things I want to update. When we went from QDTE, for which we had 2,000 shares, we rolled right into IWMY, same amount of money, 2,700 shares. And we were deriving a bigger dividend because IWMY, first of all, is priced less than QDTE. So I was able to buy more shares. But it also produces a little bit more of a dividend than QDTE. So I was collecting more money per week. Now, fast forward. As we move forward and the stock market has moved higher, my non-margin buying power has increased. Now, that's my margin buffer. Now, what is happening when that is happening? What's happening is I'm paying down my margin debt, which is increasing my non-margin buying power. See, if we were decreasing our non-margin buying power, now we're in trouble because as we're falling and falling and falling, if we get to zero, we're going to get a margin call. So this is why when I did this trade originally, I wanted to leave myself a 30% buffer. Although I'm going to plug in some numbers and it may not be perfect, this is what it looked like. When I placed that trade way back in February, I believe I left myself about 20,000 in buffer. Now that was on QDTE, and that helped me avoid a margin call. Because as the market's falling, QDTE is falling, the value of my portfolio for which I'm on margin is falling. That could have caused a margin call. Well, because we left ourselves a 30 to 35% buffer, we never got close. In fact, we got as low as 14,000 on our non-margin buying power or our margin buffer. I feel good with that. The markets were going to recover. I wasn't sweating it. But it was an experience to go through. Now let's fast forward to where we're at now. And what's happening is, as the market's going higher and IWMY is going higher to sideways, and I'm getting paid all these weekly dividends. I mean, this is now a $900 a week trade. What's happening is I'm paying down the debt. I'm still down on the trade. Don't get me wrong. Where I show a profit in IWMY and I'm collecting all these big dividends. Remember, I lost 18,000 with QDTE. Now, 18,000 was in the share price. I did collect all these dividends in QDTE before I sold. So now taking a look as to where we're at now, you can see that our non-margin buying power is actually increasing, which means I'm paying down my margin debt automatically. It's absolutely automatically paying down my debt. Which means if this trade comes clean, meaning I make back all the money from QDTE, that loss that I talked about, that would assume IWMY goes higher when my cost basis of the shares goes to zero. Everything else is left on the table. What is everything else left on the table? All these weekly dividends. So as my non-margin buying power is actually increasing, that means I'm paying off my debt, or my debt obligation is decreasing. Now, here's what I've been doing. I feel so confident with this trade. What I've been doing is picking up shares. Notice I started with 2,700 shares. I go ahead and pick up another 500 shares because my buffer is increasing. So I bring that buffer back down to about 19,000. I feel good with that. Well, it moves higher again and I do it again. And now my non-margin buying power is sitting at 22,541. Right now, my non-margin buying power, or my margin buffer, is 40% of the account. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and buy another 300 shares, which will increase my share count from 3,800 to 4,100. So that means I'm going to collect more in a weekly dividend. That's going to reduce my non-margin buying power. That's where I started this trade back in February. So as I move forward and the markets are trading sideways to higher, my non-margin buying power, or my margin buffer, is increasing because I'm paying down the debt with that weekly payment. Every single week, this thing is paying me $910 paying down the debt automatically. And I love that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just pick up 300 shares. I want to keep that non-margin buying power around 19,000 or around 35%. Hey, I'm comfortable with that. Some would say, man, that's 35% of your account you could be loading up. We want to do it the smart way, the absolute smart way. And that's what we're doing. And hopefully I can ebb and flow this, because IWMY is trading in this range between 23, 24, hasn't gotten to 25 yet, but it's just trading in this range, and it's kicking out that dividend every single week. I mean, look at the screen, 24 cents, 23, 23, 24, 23, 24. This is incredible. It's just feeding down the debt. It's paying off the debt. And that's what we're looking to do. Make sure your non-margin buying power is something that you can deal with. Remember, that truly represents how much your total account can fall before you get a margin call. Hey, in the description below is how you can get your very own smart guide to using margin for dividend investing and income, which includes the margin calculator, which has the initial trade setup, which has the margin tracker, and I added a tab if you wanted to write covered calls using margin. That calculator will help you just as all the others will. You're going to get the smart guide and the phone app. The phone app includes both all chapters of the guide and all 10 videos of my journey, including this one. In the description below, get your very own copy. Hey, look, be safe, be healthy, most important, be lucky. Until next time, may all your covered calls be profitable.